はい、5時になりました。皆さん
Well,
ご参
it's
加。
5 o'clock. It's time to start. Right now, we'd like to start for DNDi, a new drug development initiative, along with the announcement of the new strategic plan for the coming 8 years. We'd like to have the special session talk. Today, we have Zoom system with interpretation service. So there's a button underneath your frame of the PC, and please select the language you'd like to hear. And we just have limited time up to 6 o'clock, but we have very intensive, good session. And very last, we have the Q&A session at the end of the program. So please put your question to the Q&A column. My name is Tomoko Sakota. I used to work for NHK. So first of all, I'd like to invite Dr. Haruki Yamada, the DNDi chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Haruki Yamada, the chair of the DNDi. Welcome to the old member signed in and joined the seminar, and also for those panelists and presenters, thank you so much for your contribution and participating in this program. There are about 1 billion patients with neglected tropical disease, mostly in the low and middle income countries. These treatment drugs normally do not have the market. Therefore, the normal business model, there's no way to develop these drugs. And DNDi would like to resolve this problem. Located in Geneva, we actually launched the international partnership, so-called PDP, to develop those neglected disease. DNDi is promoting the drug development activities from discovery to clinical trial application, as well as the registration, with support of development organization and academia, government, and industry collaboration to provide the safe, effective, and affordable drug for those people in the poorest countries. And DNDi actually launched in 2003 in Japan for the first time and has conducted innovative drug creation and R&D activities for neglected disease by partnership with the pharmaceutical companies, universities, as well as government bodies. With the announcement of the new strategic plan for 2021 to 2028, we hope to have a meaningful discussion with you on questions such as how should we be involved in R&D in the future and how Japan contribute, and various things have been achieved thanks to Japan's active promotion and collaboration. And today, I'd like to ask your further continuous support for us for the future. Thank you very much. So as it's shown in the video, for those patients who are left behind for the clinical trial as well as drug development in this area, what kind of support we can provide and what are the roles played by the partnership? These are the key points of the discussion. Today, we invited excellent stakeholders and leaders of these areas from academia, industry, as well as the government organizations. So it's limited time, but I'd like to have your very fruitful input for all of us. So first of all, DNDi announced a new strategic plan for the next 8 years in March 25th. So the first, I would like to invite Dr. Bernard Pecou, the founder and executive director of the DNDi, to talk about Japanese partners' contribution so far and expectation to them in the future. So Bernard-san, please, the podium is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before I talk about our new strategy, let me remind you where we are coming from. I would like to take the example of sleeping sickness, a fatal disease when it cannot be treated. When I was a doctor with MSF, the only treatment available was an arsenic derivative so toxic that it killed 1 in 20 patients. This was not an unacceptable situation to be in. That frustration is where DNDi was born. from the experience of humanitarian doctors frustrated when treating patients with medicines that were ineffective, unsafe, unavailable, unaffordable, or in some cases not being even developed. So we launched DNDi as an alternative model to discover and develop drugs. Our work is focused on neglected diseases where research and development has stalled because there is no clear commercial market, neglected people such as children living with HIV, and diseases for which treatment options exist but are out of reach because too expensive, such as hepatitis C. And since 2003, we have delivered 9 treatments for 6 different diseases. We are not the solution to the problem, but we are part of the solution. As a virtual R&D organization, we do not have any research facilities or research center. Together with our partners, we have shown that this alternative model can deliver. For sleeping sickness, we recently developed a new drug called Vaccination, the first all-oral treatment that can be taken at home, a real paradigm shift for patients. And we are now developing even a more attractive single-dose oral treatment to support the elimination of the disease. So today, we are looking to the future. And we are proposing a bold agenda for the next 8 years, until 2028. We aim to deliver an additional 15 to 18 new treatments to patients. This is possible because on one side, during the next 4 years, we expect to deliver 10 to 12 treatments based on a current mature portfolio. And in the second phase, we aim to develop 5 to 7 new treatments, both from early stage new chemical entities that we have in our portfolio today through discovery effort, but also through the extension of our portfolio to new areas of need, including diseases linked to climate change, such as dengue, fever, or pandemic-prone disease like COVID-19 today. By the way, for COVID-19, DNDi is already very active through R&D with drug discovery efforts, as well as we set up a large platform called Anticov, clinical trials to address the meal treatment in 13 African countries with a current extension to India. And through partnership with the creation of a COVID clinical research coalition, galvanizing a group of partners to ensure the needs of low and middle income countries are represented in the R&D response. For the next decade, we are renewing our commitment to address neglected diseases. We will work to address the needs of people poorly served by proactively accessing the needs of children and thinking solutions for women and maternal health. It is a bold agenda, but one that, with an enduring support and commitment from our partners and donors, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank many of them attending this call. We believe we can deliver. Speaking about partners, DNDi has been working with Japanese partners for more than 10 years. Over that time, we have built and expanded our R&D partnership with pharmaceutical companies, academia, government bodies, mainly focused on drug discovery during the first period. A major turning point came with the establishment of the GEAT Fund in 2013. Thanks to the effort of many participants present at this event, we have been able to launch and deliver on a large number of R&D projects in Japan. On behalf of DNDi, I would like to express our gratitude to the GEAT Fund for the support and the tremendous impact the funds has brought. For example, we had a limited number of partners before the establishment of GEAT. GEAT opened the doors to work with many more partners, in Japan as well as outside Japan. And with this commitment, we can achieve a lot of objectives. It has been a great contribution from Japan to be able to utilize their assets and expertise in R&D. In terms of funding, G8 has supported us greatly. As an example, in 2020, G8 funding represents 11% of our resources. We are extremely grateful for the continued support for NTD in this very challenging period. As for future expectation, DNDi is trying to support partners in low and middle income countries to be more involved in research and development. So they will be able to work proactively in the near future on a sustainable response to R&D. We would like to hear your opinion on how Japanese partners can get involved and accelerate R&D in this country. Thank you very much. Arigato.
はい、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Bernard Pecou, Executive Director, DNDi. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to write in your questions in the Q&A box, please. So then, next, we would like to welcome Mr. Haruo Naito, Representative Corporate Officer and CEO, Eisai Corporation. So Eisai has been providing the treatment drug for lymphatic filariasis, one of the neglected tropical diseases, free of charge through the WHO to a prevalent country in need of a treatment. I heard that Eisai originally had the corporate philosophy of human healthcare, and that efforts to develop new drugs and improve access to medicines for developing countries were in line with the corporate philosophy. In addition, with a partnership with DNDi, Eisai has been conducting clinical development for Chagas disease and mycetoma. So we'd like to ask you, what are your thoughts on DNDi's involvement and going toward the future? And if you have any special noteworthy points about DNDi's new strategic plan, please let us know. So Mr. Naito, please, the floor is yours. Thank you for your kind introduction. My name is Naito, and I'm ever so grateful for this type of the opportunity. And as Mr. Bernard has indicated earlier, as he said, when it comes to this NTDs, I know that we are under this COVID-19 pandemic situation. That said, this can be referred to as so-called secret pandemic. So this has many, over 1 billion patients are still waiting for the treatment and being suffered even at this moment in time. So in order to resolve the situation, we have to have such a partnership with industry, government, academia partnership that is indispensable. And as for us, we are the drug manufacturer and working in collaboration over 10 years with a strong partnership. So when it comes to partnership, this is something that cannot be done overnight. So all the more important is the purpose and the significance that needs to be shared and be standing on the same ground. So on that note, working togetherly with DNDi, we have been engaging in whole array of value that we haven't got to share. So on that note, as Mr. Bernard has indicated to us, so those suffered and inflicted people, so such profit, to a certain extent, we need to advance, and we need to invest and try to support those inflicted people. We strongly sympathize with that. And together with DNDi, we would like to overcome and dare to challenge a whole series of projects going forward. So when it comes to the medication, this isn't something that just because it was manufactured, that can be delivered right away. It's not that simple. And the drug, this is a great drug, even though it exists. This isn't something that can be developed quickly. So that has to be supported with the sense of reliability and backed by such rationale and evidence. Just because there's a good compound does not mean that that can be utilized right away. Togetherly with DNDi, such as the treatment compound candidate levoconazole for Chagas disease. So this could not have been done just by ourselves, just to go out there locally and conduct a clinical trial. We would not be able to do that. So this DNDi, this organization who has a great leverage with the infrastructure and engaged with the people, local people, and backed up by such support locally. With that motivation, we were able to conduct a clinical trial. And even for those successful medication, unless there is a good, robust partnership locally and to facilitate such adherence, just because the medicine has been manufactured will not be taken as is. So therefore, I feel that it's very important to have such partnership. And in the NTDs, we will be engaging in a whole series of development going forward. So together with DNDi, we would like to facilitate such development going forward. And the reason has to do with the fact that we are able to share those whole value sets. And then in our medium-term plans, and I know that Mr. Berner has touched upon DNDi strategic plans, and I really agree to that. The medium-term arrangement is something that we have decided to work together. And so-called real medicine, the medicine that will be taken by the patients, of course, we'll be engaging such development. But in addition, so-called remote medicine, that can be done remotely. Say, for example, the diagnosis can be done remotely, and the decision and policy for treatment will be decided remotely. So-called remote medicine is something that can be done tapping into this digital IT, and there is such possibility all the more. On that note as well, with the support in the medium term, it's going to be incorporated into the strategy with DNDi, and also so-called digital medicine in a sense that those ILMCs in South Africa, everyone has smartphones nowadays, and they can input all of the data about day-to-day activities. And in light of that, and such advice and recommendation can be provided accordingly. So-called digital medicine is something that is very that really forms part of our treatment on day-to-day basis. So real physical and digital, such cutting edge, modern, and creating such foundation and accessibility to the medicine. That's something of with such angles, we would like to facilitate such collaboration with DNDi going forward. That's all for myself. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. That's a very motivating words, and this a real digital. That's something cutting edge, and it sounds very exciting. So such LTSCs and activities, and you're engaged in the whole array of the activities. So working on various international partnership and activities. So can you tell us about your outlook for contributions from Japan? I know that Dr. Nakatani and Dr. Kita I feel very humbled to speak before them. And SDGs is a buzzword that you hear about this quite often on TV. When you watch TV, SDGs comes up, and also that's captured as the top news. And regarding NTGs and our initiatives, so to me, that is exactly when it comes to healthcare and the stakeholders, including ourselves. So this SDGs, when we talk about that, of course, that's something that we need to tackle, such CO2 emission and global going green. However, this NTD initiatives, I think that this is going to be on the top of the list going forward. In SDGs, we have, there's such a goal that leaving no one left behind, and also to address the issues with the partnership that's incorporated into and reflected into the SDGs goals. On that note, so for NTG initiatives, to me, we find it to be translated as SDGs. So as the corporate activities, this is something that we need to set this as the highest priority. And also that came up earlier. So when it comes to Japan, this serving as one of the hub for NTGs in all likelihood. So of course, led by Nagasaki universities and the tropical medicine and the research, you are ahead of the times. And also GHIT fund led by Dr. Nakatani. I know that capturing whole array of the global activities, I think that is the funding that everyone is trying to pursue.
So the Japanese government actually provide lots of fund to GHIT, and also the Ministry of the Foreign Affairs as well as the Health Ministry jointly provide the fund. That is the unprecedented case, and I believe that this the fund actually GHIT fund was very successful. Well, thanks to the Dr. Nagatani's great talent. But I have to add one more thing. Well, the products, the medicinal products need to obtain the approval by the government authorities. So Japan's PMDA, the authority to provide approval for that applied drug, needs to be, well, more actively involved. I want them to be more proactively involved in the development of the tropical disease. So together with Mr. Takemi, as well as the Dr. Nakatani, I'd like to actually promote and also, well, in a way, lobby to the government organizations or authorities. And then if we can do that, well, Japan can be a real hub of the development and we can mobilize the situation. Well, Mr. Naito, thank you so much. You just mentioned secret pandemic. So there are about 1 billion patients with neglected disease, and then Japan can be the hub for the development of these treatment drugs, and it's wonderful news. So then now I'd like to invite the participants from the academia, Professor Kita. It just mentioned Professor Kita is from Dean of the Nagasaki University School of Tropical Medicine and Global Health. So he's been very active in this area, and he has been engaged for years in the development of the drug as well as parasitosis. And at the moment, he's also engaged in the development of the drug for the treatment for the COVID-19. And I'm sure there are a lot of issues from his perspective. So now I'd like to ask him, what are the gaps and commonalities of the issues you see from the academic perspective vis-a-vis what is raised from the DNDi? Thank you so much for that introduction. Well, the academia, so to speak, their role is human resource development by education, and also the pursuit of the truth of the world or universe, I would say. And that's the role of the academia. So from that perspective, the activities of DNDi, what I found is as follows. What is important in the activity is that PDP activities or DNDi activities, which is leading the PDPs, and also GHIT. For those, well, the person like us are quite familiar with these terms, but even in academia, in the area of the medical professionals and also ODAs and public health area still do not know much about these terms. It means, in short, we have to raise the level of awareness of those related people in the relevant fields and attract their interest. And especially we have to establish a good line or the sort of liaison between the government and also the industries. And then together with the DNDi-like organization, the academia should promote and actually take initiative to carry out those studies and researches. And that's the way it should be, but we still have a gap to do so. Having said that, it takes time to educate people or foster the resources. As I said before, those experts and administration or the government needs to be connected with actual players and actors with high talent. And unfortunately, that kind of resource is quite limited as of today. So as an academia or in academia, I try to nurture and educate that kind of person. However, the resources who are actually involved in tropical medicine and those neglected disease, well, the number has been increasing compared with past. However, still we do need more. So the kind of resources or the human talents are needed. And if we have a good number of those people, then we can actually mobilize and reinforce those activities led by the organization like DNDi. Thank you very much. Well, today we have more than 300 participants, so I believe it's quite important for them to get that message and somehow take some actions. But Professor Kita, do you have any sort of advice for us, the advice for us that enable us to get more attention and also attract the relevant resources? Well, I believe that this kind of event or the kind of promotion event is quite important. And due to the COVID-19, actually webinars became more popular. And wherever you are, you can actually freely join the webinars. So taking that flexibility as advantage, please make or plan this kind of webinar more. And also the engineering department or the chemical agriculture department or those researchers, those who are actually doing research in this area, I'm sure many of them are wondering, maybe my discovery would be helpful or valuable to the society. But they most of the time did not have time to or opportunity to share that. So then maybe they will leaving the research field. But if the DNDi-like organization can link those good ideas and take advantage of the good ideas, and then that would be great. Thank you very much. So the drug development is quite hard work, but it's quite attractive. So we should disseminate or communicate that message as well. Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Now I'd like to invite the chairperson of the GHIT, Dr. Nakatani, TB, and also malaria, and also neglected tropical disease, drug development, as well as diagnostic development are led by this initiative supported by Global Fund GHIT. So Global Initiative Technology Fund. So I hope I correctly pronounce and also spell out the name. So Dr. Nakatani has a great career in the area of public health as well as the public health areas. And then he assumed the position of the chairperson of the GHIT Fund, and also he is the visiting professor of the medical school of the Keio University. And so I have two major questions. From their viewpoint and international carriers, what is the value of the DNDi and what is the uniqueness of the DNDi? That's the first question. And the second question, For those patients who are left behind with the neglected disease, we have lots of issues. And regarding the further contribution from Japan, as GHIT Fund, what kind of approach we're planning to take? Well, thank you very much for your kind introduction. GHIT Fund, you correctly spelled out, so don't worry. My name is Nakatani, so nice to see you, everyone. So first of all, I'd like to welcome and congratulate the DNDi's new strategic planning. So we actually work together with DNDi, and in the future as well, would like to continuously have a good partnership. And also, I actually reflecting my experience 40 years in global health by hearing the great talk. The first starting point is actually the leprosy disease facilities located in Nagashima, the island in Japan. I was very young long ago, but there was a time that the oral drug just became available for those leprosy patients. And because of that new discovery, they no longer need to be concealed in a hospital. So then that announcement was great announcement and quite a change of the paradigm. And also, I remember that Bernard Kouchner, the founder of the Médecins Sans Frontières, well, if you imagine the cartoon, where some characters actually have the fire in the eyes, he's like that. So, and also Margaret Chance, and also from Japanese scholars, and Fukushima-san for those, sorry, the Oshima, the doctor from Japan, they actually fought to go competed each other the position of the director of the WHO. And then, so that's the kind of history I recalled. And the Bernard actually mentioned for us, GHIT Fund, the DNDi is the inevitable essential partners. So then, why we have been working in the same direction and we are aligning so well is that because we can be a complementary. We are looking at the same direction on the same page and functioning in a different way in a complementary manner. So we both want to rescue those neglected disease patients. But approaches are different. DNDi focus on clinical development and also the clinical trials, and especially having the history and the tradition of the Médecins Sans Frontières, they are actually jumping to the battlefield like Africa. They are very strong at the field. And on the other hand, we can support financially, actually mobilize those activities. So for example, myostoma mentioned by Naito-san, well, which is the refractory disease, and it's very difficult to treat, but GHIT Fund support the development of the drug, and Eisai's R&D personnel developed the drug, and then clinical trial know-how and experience and data are actually applied, and also well, at the moment, clinical trials are underway in Sudan. So it means that collaborative relationship can be formed in our collaboration. And also what is unique in DNDi is that actually there's strong wish and the passion to save the patient, people in the field, in the front line. And so we have the same passion, but with different approaches. So we can create great synergy in that respect.
So now this time with her, so I really welcome the strategic plan and at GHIT Fund, what are our initiatives going forward? So what we have is the COVID, DIVIC. So what we have been experiencing is that even in the advanced countries, such as the country of Japan, and we're encountering the same situation as the developing countries, that we have the lack of the vaccinations, say for example, and there's a debacle of the medicine. And so this is all the more reasons to focus on the R&D. So, and also to extend that to the accessibility of the medicine as well. So therefore, as the global health agenda, R&D have been set as the top of the priority. So therefore, for us, we would like to strengthen the advocacy so that neglected medicine would not be left behind anymore. And we would like to tie that into the innovation. And GHIP Fund would like to extend our opportunity. And not only contributing to the global arena, we would like to protect Japan and to strengthen the Japanese economy. So all good on all three sides. So as the GHIP Fund, I would like to continue to contribute and help people all the way. Thank you very much. So triple win. So until the 2028, 2021 to 2028 as the strategy, and to enhance the accessibility of the medicine and to look into the motivation and the needs aligned with the needs of the times. Yes, thank you very much. So now I would like to welcome Dr. Takemi. So I would like to ask Mr. Takemi, member of the House of Councillors, Japan, and former Senior Vice Minister of Health, Labor, and Welfare. And he has been giving a lot of the guidance in the R&D as well. So I know that the neglected diseases are closely related to the universal health coverage that you have been working on in each country for many years. What does the neglected diseases that DNDi is working on mean in UHC narrative, and also from the perspective of responding to and preparing for emerging infectious diseases? Interest is focused on Japan's research and development in the future. How should Japanese stakeholders form partnership? Yes, thank you very much. So when it comes to the universal health coverage, this is something that affordable and having the prevention and to have such accessibility of the all preventive care and the medicine. And in Japan, in the narrative of SDGs and to be, we have served as a great role and to have that incorporate into the SDG 3. And this has been adopted in SDG 3. And after that, especially for UHC finance, we have been set the highest priority and working with the Minister of MHLW and also serving as a host nation for J20. And we have been engaging in that. And in that, we are very much aware of the fact that when it comes to UHC, universal health coverage, many of you may think about the accessibility of medicine. Having said that, it's not only the accessibility, it's all the more important with the quality, and the quality of the medicine that is offered is something that we need to be more interested and have that focus toward quality. So it has been very much highlighted. And so what does it mean by enhancing the quality of the medicine? So that will include the preventive care. So working with the medicine and the medtechs and how much the developing countries can mitigate the time lag with the developed countries to utilize that. That is something that is serving as the big broad approach and one of the challenges going forward. So as Mr. Bernard Pickle said, so DNDi has been engaging and to try to nurture this independency, autonomy amongst the LMIC. So not only the seeding, but as the serving as a partner, DNDi always has the mindset to nurture the developing countries. So I find it to be a very important approach. So this way of approach is something that we need to be in line with that, so that LMICs and to enhance the universal health coverage. So such clinical setting, and in order to enhance the quality in the medicine, we would like to serve as the solid partner to those low and middle income countries, so that we will be able to contribute to in enhancing the quality of the medicine in the developing countries. So we find that to be very important. In that, especially when it comes to Japan, Asia Health Scheme platform. So such we are promoting the alignment with the regulatory affairs. So in that framework, so such we are partnering with the major the medtech companies and the pharmaceutical companies, and we are catering to the clinical trials for non-infectious diseases and the infectious diseases, and we are have been deploying such policies. And in that narrative, as under the COVID-19 pandemic situation, that is something that was spawned out of that framework. And what really shows and to accelerate our approach and serving as such impact upon Japan for COVID-19, especially those countries have been, it has been detrimental to those developed countries. So including the developing countries as well, the vaccination is of the need, something that's indispensable. So therefore, going forward, such vaccination is something needs to be continued to be developed according to the novel infectious diseases. And not only the joint global study, but for the developed and developing countries, and with the collaborative effort by the institutions, I think we need to create such global jointly held clinical trials going forward. So therefore, in that narrative, in Japan, for many of the hospitals in the developing countries, we would like to promote such network of the to hold a joint global clinical trials. And then we need to refresh our memory that this not only caters to NTDs, but in the field of the infectious disease is something that when we develop the medicine, so under the normalcy, the market is extremely limited. So such capital procurement cannot be only dependable to the market mechanism. So therefore, under this COVID-19, in retrospect, so for Japan as well, under the normalcy, we need, in order to compensate for the market mechanism, the Japanese government needs to invest togetherly with similarly to G-HIT fund, not only catering to the developing countries, but to those developed countries and the vaccinations and the medicine that are in need. We need to support robustly and financially, and we need to stimulate those foundations in Japan. This has been decided, just been decided at the cabinet on June 1st. So this would be a great motivation for us. So we should leverage and catch this wave, and so that we can facilitate such more partnerships going forward. So Mr. Takemi, thank you very much. This is very, very encouraging. And I think I have high hopes and expectations for our R&D to be advancing.
And well, I'm sure we fully understand how important this the partnership is. So we received many questions. So I'd like to cover the question as much as possible. So let me start. So So the first question is to Mr. Naito. In my university, there's a group, the practice and course called the basic exercise, and then we have a group work regarding SDGs, having discussion what we can do. So as an individual, what we can do in a daily life with regards to the neglected disease. And we have lots of opinion and discussions, but actual action is rather lagging behind. So what can we do as individual action? Okay, first of all, the neglected tropical disease, this term itself, well, I myself, I have to say, cofilaria, lymphatic filaria, the drug which we discovered and developed, unless I make the promise to Dr. Chan, I myself not familiar with the tropical neglected disease, I have to say. So, well, often we said awareness is important, but so any interesting topics like tropical neglected disease, there are lots of articles and information available, and GHIT Fund also have some relevant information. So I think in your exercise or the study in group or individual, you can actually study deeply for these the terms and issues you're interested in. And also in the real world, or on the field, I should say, Japanese NPO and NGOs are very actively involved in the field. So, for example, the contacting with them can be one of the sort of project or ideas. So you can take sort of approach as an individual to what they have been doing. And I have to say the drug needs to be administered in a certain amount of population, for example. The infectious disease drug, for example, unless you provide mass dosing to the community or the community vaccination as a whole are necessary to actually see the effectiveness. And then in order to do that, first you have to have the good trustworthy relationship and respect to the head of the village. And with that, we can actually implement any medical sort of program at the field. And then as an individual, maybe you can find the information and have some support to that kind of activity. So you can do many things as an individual. Thank you for the answer. Well, there are many new images now you can get. Okay, so the next question is about the PMDA. So I'd like to ask Dr. Nakatani to answer this question. So if PMDA can approve the drug as the first agencies in the world to approve something, what kind of impact they can create to the world? I see. Well, that's a challenging question, but I try to answer as much as I can. In case of medicinal products, well, for the push, I mean, we can actually invest for the R&Ds. But in order to accelerate the R&D, we do need a kind of pull. It means the needs from the market. It means the early approval of the drug and become available in the market is a big factor. It works on the whole context of development. But I also think that the development capability is actually resides with the pharmaceutical companies. And in order for them to motivate and work on that great mission, we do need a kind of motivation. I mean, I know the Mr. Naito CEO had great motivation and initiative, but actually we do need some sort of motivation and incentives to the business or industries. In case of USA, they actually have a priority review for a useful or needed drug. And also they issued vouchers, and once they get the vouchers, the company can utilize that voucher for the other type of drugs, well, hypertension drugs or the dementia drugs or those major or the mainstream drugs which pharmaceutical companies have been developing can use that voucher. And with that scheme, actually the company, pharmaceutical company, actually see the benefit of developing those drugs. And then altogether, we can deliver a good, effective drug to the patient. I see. So it's really applicable to the case where we can think about the situation because of this COVID-19 situation, and many people have more interest in how the good drugs are delivered to the market. And I think this is a very good sort of timing to disseminate that kind of message, right? So then next, I'd like to ask Professor Kista. So in academia, you mentioned that the level of awareness among the academia expert about the development of the drug, development of this kind of drug, what would be the good sort of solution for them? Well, I think the problem is actually not the amount of benefit or the sort of amount of money related there. In other words, the partnership, for example, in a partnership among researchers, once they find disease, how to develop further. And in that phase, we have to think about partnership with the companies and also on the same extension, the approval by the PMDA. So we should somehow let the experts, sorry, the researchers know the sort of big picture, the whole the process, and that part we do need the promotion education. Having said that, where academia, for example, the BSL-4 or the Ebola, we are able to actually handle the drugs related to these diseases by ourselves. However, now the facility is available. Having said that, actually developing these drugs cost tens of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars. So the point is, for the researchers in academia, they would like to get the fund for the research. However, they also have the research fund, and also they are quite, how can I say? Well, they have this great researcher's mind, i.e. their research, they hope to be beneficial for the society. With that, we have the organization like AMED or the JICA. These two institutions actually work with the viewpoint aligning to the researchers at the field. It's rather unique scheme in Japan and unlikely in Western countries. So for example, JGRID or subreps, so these are the studies of the infectious diseases by AMED. Well, they organize a joint presentation session, or somehow they try to create the opportunity to share their achievement and information. And for example, they can actually extend that opportunity to the industries and company people, but they also can find the potential sort of seeds and basic researches. So in Japan, in short, there are lots of resources, undiscovered resources. And as Takemi-san mentioned earlier, in normal time, the government makes sure to support these activities. So I think, well, the COVID-19 pandemic somehow gave us a good opportunity to messaging out. So the media also needs to pick up all these issues in the news coverage. Thank you very much.
と思ってるんですけれども、一つ武見先生、
So one question is directed for Mr. Takemi. There is the terminology called vaccination diplomacy to preemptively deliver the vaccinations to certain countries like Russia. So for DNDi and GHIT to be involved, what would this trend will be changing? So with the support from GHIT and DNDi, so this would be spearheaded by the government. All the more, this is something that we will be creating such platform going forward. So this with the AMED who provide such capital and the funding and those organizations involved in the infectious disease through so that caters to those cannot conduct and engage in the capital procurement in the market. So about, I think it will be necessary at least to have 100 billion of the procurement and the funding. So therefore, in the AMED, such mandate was not incorporated as for the international cooperation. So therefore, AMED have been working dedicated for the Japanese market only. So therefore, they have officially, we need to mandate such international cooperation in their mandate going forward so that we'll be able to engage in those jointly held global study. And there will be enough funding to be injected into those initiatives. And we will be changing the gear towards that direction. In that context, togetherly with DNDi and GHIT, I know that you will be working very closely, and I am certainly looking forward to that. Thank you very much. So lastly, Mr. Bernard, one question. So only 1 or 2 minutes remaining in COVID-19. So I know that PMDA have been allocating a much resource. So what are the impact for other program? I think there was a question directed to you.
Okay, thank you. We have been including COVID activity in our portfolio, but in addition to the rest of the activity, we have not used any funding from the neglected diseases to address COVID. But we were pushed into this direction because we just realized that most of the research conducted on COVID-19 was happening in North America, in Europe, and very little research was happening in other countries. And because of our strong commitment to develop research and development innovation with partners in Africa, in India, in Latin America, we really had a strong feeling that it was important to commit our capacity to this. And of course, the question that we are trying to address is to develop, if possible, a treatment at the early stage of the disease that could be used as a test and treat approach in order to reduce the number of severe cases. This, of course, in addition to the vaccine, is probably the way to support those countries.
はい、エルナールありがとうございました。今日は本当に質
So
問
thank you very much, Mr. Bernard. I know that we have received so many questions. Now it is almost close to the closing. So now we would like to welcome Ms. Kaori Nakatani, the head of DNDi Japan office, to give us a closing remarks. Hello, and thank you for your participation today. So with in Japan, in collaboration with industry, academia, and the Japanese government, the outcome, the results are beginning to be seen at various stages of research and development. And so going forward to the future, in addition to the people who have collaborated so far, we will strive to increase the number of people who are interested in and tackle diseases that are not neglected together by getting to know PDP more widely like us. So we will continue to put our effort into this. In addition to R&D, I would like to broaden the circle of understanding and support for equal access to medicine. I think that there are many people who have experience of being left behind by COVID-19, whether in Japan or around the world. So by picking up such voices and patients who have difficulty raising their voices and developing and delivering medicine, we hope that many people will be close to their health as possible. Therefore, if you're interested in this area, please feel free to contact us. And we hope that we can work together to overcome such barriers. So lastly, regarding our strategic plan, we are planning to conduct a separate seminar in Japanese on July 21st that specializes under the context of the research and development and the diseases to be addressed. So if you're interested, please join us. So thank you very much. It is exactly 6 p.m. now. So we were able to hear very interesting voices by industry, government, and academia. Thank you very much for all the panelists and to interpreters as well. So this will conclude today's session. Thank you very much.